I want to talk to you guys about buprenorphine. What buprenorphine is it's an opioid used to get people off an opioid. There are some problems with this medication. One being that it has abuse potential, another being that it has overdose potential, the third being, despite what the evidence suggests, which no one's seen this evidence, that it's not very effective. The Tennessee Department of Health had this to say about buprenorphine. Tennessee Department of Health found a total of 67 deaths associated with buprenorphine in 2016. Most people had taken multiple drugs prior to death. However, the latest Tennessee Department of Health analysis of drug overdose death data shows abuse of buprenorphine alone can sometimes lead to death. Tennessee Department of Health data showed 10 Tennesseans only had buprenorphine present when they died. I speak to you today not as someone who has anything to profit from the success or failure from using buprenorphine as a medicated assisted treatment program, but someone who has personally failed using this opioid. Someone who has family members who have also failed using this as a program of recovery. We have to hear from the people who have experienced this themselves. That is the true evidence. Evidence like Adam, who went to the clinic to get off of street opioids, only to months later be shooting his supply of buprenorphine in his arm so that he could get the same feeling that he got in the beginning. His brain telling him, we need more, figure it out, we need more.
My name's Adam Morris. I had a pain pill addiction for about 15 years, and I started with the process of trying to come off of pain pills. Went to Suboxone doctors with the buprenorphine, and it just led over and over to a different cycle of drug. It wasn't something that was gonna fix me or try to give me any kind of recovery or there was no process of stopping from it. The Suboxone is just as bad, in my experience, was just as bad as any other opioid. It's really just trading one for another. It's not trying to, solve the issue that you have with addiction.
Stories like Samantha, who went to the clinic because she was told that buprenorphine would fix her. She was told by the doctor that buprenorphine was going to fix her, only to have one more attempt and one more failure.
I'm Samantha. I'm 21 years old and I struggle with opiate addiction. I first heard about Suboxone through some friends, and from what I understood, it was this miracle drug that was going to cure me from opiate addiction. I wouldn't experience any more withdrawals or cravings or anything like that. I went to the Suboxone clinic, and when I first went into the office, my doctor was very cut and dry with me. Here's your Suboxone, you're going to be on it for 2 years, and once your 2 years is up, we'll start weaning you down. I was very curious about how it worked and, exactly how I needed to take it, but he didn't give me any other information other than how long I'd be on it. When I first started Suboxone, I thought that it was everything that everyone had cracked it up to be. My withdrawals were gone, my cravings were gone, and it was amazing at first, until about 4 months later, and I started getting sick. I was on 3 strips a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. When I would take my first strip in the morning, it wouldn't fully get rid of my cravings anymore. And 2 hours later, I started getting sick, but the sickness was much more worse than anything that I'd experienced from pain pills. It was excruciating. So I went back to the doctor and explained to him that I needed more of it, but of course he wouldn't give me more. So eventually I went right back to pain pills. If you're thinking about using Suboxone, giving it a try, just be very cautious on how you use it and the dosage that you're using. I would go to a doctor that you trust. Make sure that your doctor's giving you all the information that you need and that they actually care about you and not selling the drug itself.
We have to listen to people's stories like Daniel, who went in to get help for his opioid addiction to get off of opioids, only to be given another opioid and not even know it. Listen to his story. Check it out.
So my name's Daniel. I've been struggling with addiction for years, and then after the death of my grandmother, I decided to go to rehab. Well, in rehab, I was introduced to buprenorphine, and you know, it alleviated my withdrawal symptoms. It made me feel normal. Before I had finished my outpatient rehab, I found a doctor, set everything up. It was really it was almost like a drug deal. The doctor didn't have a practice. He had a building. He told me to meet him there. He gave me the prescription, and that was it. So a month later, I come back, and now he has his practice up and going, and so for a year, I came every month. I got my prescription of Suboxone. I thought I was cured. I didn't abuse it. My insurance stopped paying for my medicine. So for the first time in that year, I had to actually go without taking it. And so I started feeling these symptoms, and it wasn't like any opiate withdrawals I'd ever had, so I didn't really know what it was. So I Googled the way I was feeling, and it explained the withdrawal symptoms from Suboxone. And so that was when I realized, like, what I thought had fixed me, had made me normal, had really just replaced the one addiction for the next. And even though I wasn't going out searching for drugs, and I was able to hold down a job and all those things, having to go through those withdrawals, like, it broke my spirits, because I thought I was fixed. You know, I didn't want to have to go through addiction anymore. I just thought this miracle pill was going to take everything away, and it didn't. So then I had to come off that cold turkey. It was horrible. It was like a spider crawling in my spine. You know, really uncomfortable feeling. You can't sleep. You can't. It was miserable. And I'm going through this out of town while I was working, so I'm trying to get some sleep. I'm trying to get some rest. And then I got to wake up after maybe an hour and a half of sleep, and then just laying there tossing and turning, feeling uncomfortable. Maybe 3 weeks later, I was back at it. You know, I was back on the opiates. And I did that for several months. And then I was like, man, I got to go back and try to get the Suboxone. I'm spending too much money on pills again. I would rather be stuck to taking this pill every day than spending all my paycheck on pills. And if I have to be chained to something, I would rather have been chained to that. But I didn't see any other way out. I didn't know there was any other options. You know, that was what they gave me, a rehab. That's what they had preached to me, was this maintenance therapy. Finally, what ended up helping me was I got involved with a group of people who showed me love and understanding and acceptance and things that I had been looking for my whole life, that I was trying to fill that void through opiates. And then once I got in that web, you know, I didn't know how to get out of it. So the Suboxone, buprenorphine, I thought that was the answer, and that wasn't the answer either. Once the substance was gone and I wasn't having those physical withdrawals anymore, I was still left with those same mental struggles that I had to deal with that ultimately led me to the addiction. So learning how to deal with those things, learning how to deal with being accepted, and learning how to deal with feeling good enough, learning how to deal with life on life's terms. The maintenance therapies couldn't provide me with that. It couldn't teach me how to live. It couldn't teach me how to love someone, to love myself. It couldn't teach me, you know, just how to be a good father, son, husband. If you're thinking about doing a MAT, it's not all bad. I mean, everything has a purpose. Opiates have a purpose, but people are going to abuse it. Suboxone, things like that, has a purpose, but people are going to abuse it. And it's all in how you decide to use that tool if you use it to alleviate the withdrawal symptoms, then it serves its purpose. But as far as a long-term recovery, I wouldn't suggest it. You know, it's going to trick your mind, because when you take it, you're going to feel normal. You're going to not necessarily feel high, but eventually there will come a time when life's going to throw a curveball at you, and you're going to have to deal with the death of a family member. You know, maybe you separate with your spouse. Some sort of trauma is going to come, and you're going to not know how to deal with that. You really need to get involved in a 12-step program, maybe some sort of spiritual journey to fill that void, to be around positive influences, positive people who can help you deal with life on life's terms, because the drug is just replacing one addiction for the next so that you can live your life, but you're still chained to a pill. If you go on vacation, you don't have the pills, what are you going to do? You're going to be sick, you're going to be in bad shape, you're going to have to cancel your plans. You know, if you get stuck somewhere and you don't have your medicine, you're right back in that same feelings that the opiates brought you. The only way to really get rid of those things is up here. You know, you got a lot to work on up here.
So there's stories like Daniel's happening all over this community, all over this state, all over this nation right now. And there are reasons why, scientific reasons. Addiction on the brain is addiction on the brain, no matter the opioid that you're on. And so when someone abuses opioids over a period of time, those neurotransmitters called dopamine carve caverns or pathways in the brain. Now that makes the person more likely to think about drugs, that makes the person more likely to crave drugs, that makes the person more likely to use drugs, to abuse drugs, and to have those drugs on a daily basis. Now that reaction happens when you take street opioids, prescription opioids, or opioids used to get you off of other opioids like buprenorphine. So that reaction is still keeping those pathways open, and it's not allowing the brain to heal from the addiction process. So why am I telling you all this? It's because my own personal experiences even dealing with my own mother, who's been on MAT for 7 years. 2 months ago, she overdosed twice in a month and a half. She wasn't using other drugs besides the opioids that they're giving her. She wasn't abusing the opioids. Long-term effects from this can damage your liver, lungs, renal compromise is one of the side effects, and her liver shut down, so the opioid built up in her system. Then she overdosed because the opioid shut her lungs down. This happened twice. She is, after her second overdose in the past month and a half, is still going to a clinic. I'm telling you this because I have your personal best interests in mind. For a variety of recovery options, MAT or not MAT, you can call 800-889-8789. That's the Tennessee Red Line, 800-889-8789. Or you can go to the TADAS website, that's TAADAS.org.